Dear students, this is Professor Dr. Zia Ahmed from University of Southern Punjab. And we are dealing with the online lectures, and Jandan is the poet in the classical poetry, and his love poems and divine poems are our target to understand and to develop a lot of engagement with Jandan. Today's poem is The Good Morrow. The Good Morrow. Dear students, here morrow is morning. It means the title of the poem is going to be Good Morrow. This is a love poem, and that is why the title is possible here. In case of divine poems, there is no title. It is the first line which is taken as title. But in case of love poems, John Donne has given the title also. And here, Good Morrow is going to be the title. It means he's saying good morning. Okay, so but before we proceed further, I shall be asking a question to you people. Have you ever thought that there is a mention of some sleepers who are sleeping in a cave, ashab kahf जिनको हम कहते हैं, so they are sleeping in the cave, and some people point out that one of their dogs is also there, and one day they will get up. There is a kind of myth about this, that these people wanted to go to sleep to avoid the sins of this world, and they would say when the doomsday comes, they may be given permission by God to rise up again. So this is the type of story about that. Jandan in this poem uses this story for his love and for his beloved. For example, you people should read some of the lines with me so that we can capture this concept. He says, I wonder by my truth what thou and I did we loved. We were not weaned till then, but sucked on country pliers childishly, or snorted we in seven sleepers' den. It was so, but this all players' fancies be, if ever beauty I did see, which I desired and got, it was but a dream of thee. So here in these lines, as you have seen, seven sleepers' den has been mentioned. This is the same, jisko maine ashab-e kahf kaha. So here, the seven sleepers' dens have been mentioned. Now we are to see what is the reason behind that. As you know, this is a love poem, so that is why the poet makes his start by mentioning that he and his beloved were always in love. Even before death, even before birth, they were in love, and till death, they would remain in love. And when he and his beloved were just babies, just children, at that time, they did not have the realization. They were not conscious of their love, but he says certain in unconscious, there was the existence of love at that time also, and therefore they loved each other even at the time when they were just small babies, when they were just getting milk from their mothers. There's a word, weaned till then, weaned, W-E-A-N-E-D, weaned till then. Weaning is the period when you have taken the milk and coming outside of that, milk of the mother. And as a result, he says when they were just small children taking the milk of the mothers, even at that time, they were in love, although they couldn't express with each other, but they have been thinking about their love for each other. It was a kind of sleeping period for them, because when they will realize, when they will grow up, they will be able to meet each other. He says their example is just like the example of seven sleepers who are sleeping in a cave, and they will get up when God will allow them. The same thing happened with him and his beloved, that they were in love, they were sleeping, and ultimately one day they will wake up, their love will wake up them, and as a result they will be able to say love to each other. So this is the topmost kind of love which he tries to say. But our concern is with the love matter, with passion which he expresses, but our concern is also with the conceit which he has used. The concept of seven sleepers' den is an abstract concept. We don't know. We have not been able to see that, what happened, what is going on with them. It's a concept. But it's a concept very difficult to relate with the worldly love of the people, lover and the beloved. When they are children, he says, we are just like those seven sleepers' den. We had love, but we did not realize as they are sleeping. When they will wake up, they will realize the love of God. And similarly, he says that when they have become conscious of their life, when they were babies and ultimately became children, then the young children, he says, as soon as they became conscious of their life, they will feel the same love for them. So in this way, he says that at the time of birth, at the time of childhood, at the time of taking milk, they were in love. Though they didn't know that, they were not conscious human being, and when they will become conscious human being, they will be loving each other. And in this way, he proves one thing very strongly. For example, according to him, when he was a boy, or when he was 10-year-old or 11-year-old, he could not express his love like a young man. But he had that love in his brain, in his mind. How, for example? he says in the ending lines of the first part of this poem that if he ever liked one woman, if he ever liked any girl, or he was impressed by the beauty of a girl, he says actually he was impressed by the beauty of his beloved. Now, this is very strange. He says in his mind, the concept and the image of his real beloved was present, though he was not a young man, not a conscious person, and that is why when he liked someone, actually he liked according to the image of the beloved which was present in his mind. So it means that the image was in the mind and he liked any woman if he liked. He says that he only liked because of the image present in his mind. So it is the kind of shift from unconscious love to conscious love. In the unconscious stage, he says, mind was filled up, the concept was filled up, the conscious was filled up, but as children, he could not realize. Same was the case with his beloved also. But as soon as they grew up, they were able to, recognize each other that they were the lovers. So this is the, most fascinating concept of love. As people who love each other, they try to give some difficult kind of imagination to love by saying, I will be loving you after the other generation, the next generation, after death I shall be loving you. These sentences, you dear students, you might have listened from the people. But here in this poem, these very things go to happen. So in this way, he makes a start of the very high quality and quantity of love for his beloved. And the same thing he continues in the next part of the poem also. Let us read these lines. And now good morrow to our waking souls, which watch not one another out of fear, for love all love of other sights control, and makes one a little room and everywhere. Let sea discoverers to the new earth have gone. Let maps to other worlds on words have shown. Let us possess one word, catch each hath one and is one. Now in this part of the poem, that shift is going to complete. The shift from unconscious level of life to the conscious level of life. He says that when we grew up, for example, we immediately recognized each other because love was already present around them, inside them. So when they saw each other, they were able to recognize. But he says that he cannot lose the sight of his beloved, because if he loses the sight of his beloved, it means that he will be interested in something else also. Now he will be keeping the sight of his beloved, and she will be keeping her sight into him, and as a result, they will remain constantly looking at each other. And so there will be no chance for any other thing to intervene between these two love. He says this is a word. In this word, there are many things which can divert the attention of the lover, which can ask him to come here or go there. In this way, love will become weak according to him. But he says he therefore will not do so. You see, this is something that we should understand symbolically. Actually, it is not possible that the lover should be constantly looking into the eyes of the beloved. There are the routines of the world as well. But what is that? It is symbolically spoken that all and every time he wants to keep the face of that beloved in his mind so that no other person, no other face should come to him. He says that other people who are not lovers, they can do anything. They can be busy in this world. They can be looking at the maps of the world, or they can be discovering some of the oceans, some of the mountains, some of the islands they may be discovering. They may be going on voyages, sea voyages, air voyages, or on foot they may be going to discover the world because their interest lies on those things. He says his interest is not in those things. His interest is in the eyes of the beloved. And so in that way, he assumes a superior status as compared to the common people. The common people may be very ambitious, and they may be going to different places in order to put their life and energy in danger, and they may be killed also in those ways. As a result, they risk their life. He says, but for what they are risking their life? They are risking their life for the sake of their ambitions, for the sake of their fulfillment of desires, etc. But he says that he is not interested in doing so. For him, his beloved is the whole world. His beloved is the biggest ambition. His beloved is the person for whom he can take a risk, he can sacrifice his life, etc., etc. Now, the last part of the poem tells us why does the poet say all these things. Can you imagine what is he saying? He says, let us read these last lines so that you may be having a good idea of that. So read with me. My face in thine, thine in mine appears, and true plain hearts do in the faces rest. Where can we find to better hemispheres, without sharp north, without declining west? Whatever dies was not mixed equally, if our two loves be one, or thou and I love so alike, that none do slacken, none can die. So in this part of the poem, there is a concept of hemispheres. Dear students, one thing is sphere, then is the hemisphere. Sphere is the whole circle, hemisphere is the half circle. He uses this concept in order to explain his love. For example, he says, when my beloved looks into my eyes and I look into her eyes, we become one word. Now you need to understand this concept, how they become one word. I think interestingly, I must tell my students that when you look into the eyes of a person, your shape, your face appears in those eyes. And you can recognize it's like a mirror. Same thing is possible that the person who's looking into your eyes, he may be able to recognize. So he says that in this way, when they look into the eyes of each other, they look into the hearts of each other. Looking into the eyes is just like looking into the hearts of each other. So when they look into the hearts, because he explains also that simple, plain human being who are not clever or who are not cheaters, their heart is visible in their eyes. So that is why he says, when I look into the eyes of my beloved, I can see what her heart is saying. So in this way, they look into the eyes of each other. Now, dear students, imagine that when you are looking into the eyes of a person at that time, there are two pair of eyes you have, one pair of eyes, two eyes you have actually, and same is the case with the person into whose eyes you are looking. And you know, our eyes are spherical, our eyes are round in shape, but we cannot see the whole eye, only the front part of the eye we can see. It means we can see only a half of the eye, full eye is not visible to us. And in this way, the lover, the poet says that when I look into the eyes of my beloved, half of the eye is mine, half of the eye is my beloved. And this he calls hemisphere. Half eye is the hemisphere. Half hemisphere is in the eyes of the beloved, half in the eyes of the lover. Now he says that when we combine, when we look into the eyes of each other, our half eyes become one complete eye. In the same way, as for example, we have earth which is round in shape, and one person lives on the half part of the earth, other person lives on the other half part of the earth. But they cannot say that they are not united because of the earth they are united with each other. So even if they live on the hemispheres, half spheres, they may be able to combine themselves together by virtue of the earth in which they are living. Same is the case with the eyes of the lover and the beloved. According to him, that half of the eye which is naked, which is visible to each other, is with the beloved, and then it is with him as a lover. When they look into the eyes of each other, both halves combine together and make a complete world. And now this is something, the more significant kind of thing, that how a complex physical image of the hemisphere of eyes, I mean the eye itself, the structure of the eye, has been compared with love. And therefore, the abstract image has been compared with the concrete image. And that is the skill, the expertise, the perfection of John Donne, because of which we call him a metaphysical poet. But he goes to explain one thing more. And that is the most dominant thought and idea of the poem. Look at the ending lines of the poem. He says, okay, hemispheres are there, now the full word has been formed, but in the real world, sometimes cold seasons come and sometimes hot seasons come. Some places become so cold that human beings cannot live there, and some places become so hot that the human beings cannot live there. He says the world of love, which his beloved and he form, he make, that sphere of the world of love does not have sharp north, does not have sharp south, which means that there is no cold at all, there is no hot at all. It's a moderate temperature everywhere. If there can be any passion, it's the passion of love. Love would never become cold, it means would never finish in the world constructed by the lover. And it will never be in difficulty because of the heat, because that love is moderate, that environment is moderate. So in this way, he says, his word is a better word because it's the love word. So it means that the concrete image of earth is being compared with abstract image of love once again. So it is the technique of John Donne that he makes the images in that way come together, juxtaposed together, although they cannot meet each other in the normal way. He makes them forcefully to join each other and become one thing. Same thing has been done twice in this poem. First in the last part of the poem, it was in case of the hemispheres. And the last part of the poem, it was in the case of maps and Ashtarsa and the eyes and Seven Sleepers Den, all these things combined together. So this is also one of the love poems which became famous and very powerful in this word. He has explained it well, what the concept of love is present in his mind. Okay, so that was all about today's lecture. Hope you have understood, and let us wait for the next lecture. Thank you.